Have you ever wanted to bake your own cake and thought, that's too hard or that's going to take a lot of time? Well, I'm here to tell you that it is a piece of cake. I've been a hobby baker for over 25 years and I baked my very first cake back in 1998. I've done hundreds of cakes for weddings and birthdays and showers, and I've learned a lot along the way, and I wanted to share a few of my tips and tricks with you in that process. I want to show you the process of gathering your ingredients and the supplies needed, as well as the mixing, baking, and frosting of your cake. So come along with me as we bake our first cake. But first, be sure to wash your hands. After your hands are washed and you're ready to gather your ingredients and your supplies, you're going to need a mixer. It could be a hand mixer, it could be a stand mixer, or you could do it by hand. You do need 2 cake pans. You will need 3 mixing bowls, as well as measuring cups, measuring spoons, a spatula, and a cake board or a cake plate. What you also want to do is make sure your oven is turned on to 350 and preheated before we put our cakes in the oven. Now that you have your supplies gathered, we are actually gathering our ingredients, and this is the important part because you want your ingredients at room temperature before starting and measuring. With whatever recipe you decide to choose, just be sure that your measurements are exact. Now that we have our supplies and our ingredients ready to go, we are going to make sure our ingredients are measured out into our mixing bowls. Just be sure that when you measure your ingredients, you will keep dry ingredients in one bowl and mix, and then you will take your wet ingredients that are at room temperature in another bowl and mix. Once these two are mixed, you will take and combine them together to create your cake batter. You will take your dry ingredients, 1 cup at a time, and transfer them into your wet ingredient bowl and mixing at the same time. Once this is all combined and the ingredients are all mixed together, that is your cake batter. Once your cake batter is all ready to go, what we want to do is take those 2 pre-greased cake pans and pour our cake batter into those cake pans. Level and making sure that they are even, and then putting them into the preheated oven at 350. Once our cakes are in the oven and at 350, we're going to bake those for about 45 minutes, give or take, depending upon your ovens. They may be a little different. So when your time is up, you always want to make sure that your cakes are fully baked before removing them from the oven. And don't check too soon because your cakes could fall. What you want to do is take a toothpick or a knife and apply it to the center of the cake, and if your toothpick or knife comes out clean, your cake is done. If you don't want to do that, that's okay. Then you just need to make sure that the cake batter is separated from the sides of your cake pan and you touch the top and the top is bouncy. That also means your cakes are done. Now that your cakes are done baking, we'll then move on to the cooling process. The cooling process is we will take those cakes out of the oven and put them onto a cake rack to cool for about 10 to 15 minutes in the cake pan. After that 10 or 15 minutes, we'll want to then take our cakes out of the cake pan and move them onto a cake board or a cake plate, whatever you have, and move those cakes into a refrigerator or freezer for another 10 to 15 minutes to speed up the cooling process, because you do not want a warm cake when you're frosting your cake. That will turn into a complete mess and you don't want that. So now that our cakes are done in the refrigerator or freezer for the 10 to 15 minutes, we are now ready to move on to frosting our cake. Frosting our cake is the fun part. Not that you're not having fun already, but you can make homemade frosting, you can buy a canned frosting, whatever you want to do is okay. You're just ready to take that first layer of cake that's on that cake board and take some frosting and apply it to the top of that cake. Now that you have that ready, you're going to take your second cake layer and apply it on top of that first cake layer that's already frosted. With your leftover frosting, you're going to take and apply it to the sides and the top. Now you're ready and your cake is ready to go and you're ready to eat. Enjoy. You did a great job. Enjoy the process. Have fun with it. Now that we've gone through the steps of gathering your ingredients, mixing, baking, you're ready to go. Now that you said that now you know the saying, you can have your cake and eat it too. Well, now you can say, I've made my cake and eat it too. That sounds so much sweeter. Enjoy.